up with eloquent words and a wonderful anthem from The Wiz. For those of you who have experienced his magic on stage, film, and television, I only need name a few musicals to conjure the nocturnal genius that emanates from this Broadway legend. Well, actually, he calls himself a god, but I won't go there. The Wiz, Ain't Misbehaving, Play On, The Full Monty, and for those of you who have crossed the River Styx, his Tony Award-winning tour de force as Hermes in Hadestown will give you a preview of heaven in hell. I won't even try to list all his Tony, Emmy, and Obie nominations, but what I will say is you haven't seen the latest issue of New York Magazine with the sensational cover photo of André De Shields. Go out and try to get one. They're almost all sold out. They're fantastic. They did a whole series on Broadway legends, and they included André. Okay. Andre's the only person I know who walked into a class in graduate school, eager to soak in knowledge, and was then drafted to teach it when the professor went on leave. He must have done a good job because he was asked back to create courses at NYU's Galvin School, and he's received honorary doctorates from more than one university, which has created some confusion in music circles when I refer to him as Dr. Dre.
No Bridget, no doctor.
At the age of 70, we all know that you were at Yale doing Headley and 7 guitars, and you also did Stool Pigeon and King Headley at the Arena Stage. And we're going to talk about how Timothy Douglas discovered you. We'll talk about that later. And just yesterday, the Outer Critics Circle Awards nominated André as Outstanding Featured Performer in an Off-Broadway musical for his role in Cats, the Jellicoe Ball. So André has shared a plan. He plans to live till be 696, is that right?
969.
Okay, I knew I got it wrong. I wasn't sure because I don't count that high. But you know something? Phylicia Rashad is 1/3 of the way there already. Because her Aunt Esther was 365 years old.
287.
I got it all wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't even push you up. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I know, but it was the performance was so brilliant. I had to add some years.
Are they on?
Yeah, we heard you. Thank you for the corrections. This is intentional, of course. She was nominated for a Tony Award for that performance. And here in Washington, she graduated from Howard University. You know. And many years later returned to give back to her alma mater as Dean of the Chadwick A. Boseman College of Fine Arts. And just last year, Queen Rashad was the keynote speaker for the August Wilson Society's annual Ground Lecture Series. Recently, at a 50th anniversary celebration of The Wiz on Broadway, I learned that she appeared in The Wiz. I'm not gonna tell them what role, okay, I'll let you tell them.
I was a munchkin.
Sexy.
You can see it, right? Okay. So, Phylicia won the 2004 Tony Award for Leon Younger in Raisin in the Sun, which marked the first time an African-American actress had won in the Best Leading Actress category. When she reprised the role in 2008 TV adaptation, she won an NAACP Image Award, and for her performance, spectacular performance in Dominique Morisseau's Skeleton Crew, she won the 2022 Tony Award as Best Featured Actress in a Play. And just yesterday, you know this already, Phylicia was nominated by the Outer Critics Circle Awards for Outstanding Direction of the new Broadway play for her work on Purpose. Believe it or not, these are very short introductions. Constanza Romero Wilson. She wears many hats, a visual and ceramic artist, twice Tony-nominated costume designer, a mother, and a movie producer. It is her role as widow and executor of the August Wilson Estate, LLC, that ensures the safeguarding of the rich legacy of August Wilson's 10-play American Century cycle. Yes, Constanza produced the award-winning 2016 film Fences and Netflix's 2020 Oscar-nominated Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Among the film's many honors, I would be remiss if I did not point out that Chadwick Boseman was the 2021 Best Actor winner Critics Award, as well as the BET 2021 Best Performance by an Actor in the Leading Role. I have to say that because we want to honor those. Constanza arranged for the University Library System at the University of Pittsburgh to house the August Wilson Archive, the most appropriate home for the playwright whose 9 plays, 9 of them are set in the Hill District of Pittsburgh. Constanza and August were collaborators from the beginning of their relationship, and that's all I'm going to say right now. Let's welcome Constanza. I should mention she's being inducted into the College of Fellows tomorrow, so we're excited about that. As well as her husband, August Wilson. So we're looking forward to that. So Stephen McKinley Henderson, M.E.O.A.D., is a true Wilsonian warrior, a term Constanza coined to describe those who hold a legacy in their souls and spirits. He has worked on stages throughout the United States and abroad, on and off Broadway, and in television and film. His work in the 2010 Broadway revival of August Wilson's Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis earned Stephen a Tony nomination in the featured actor category. Remember? That season, he also received the Richard Self Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor, presented annually by Actors Equity. He's a Fox Foundation Fellow, member of the Labyrinth Theater. Now, he's also done lots of television work. He's done all kinds of stuff. He did Racing the Sun for PBS, and he's been a recurring judge on Law and Order for 15 years, and all that time, he was never arrested. That was bad, okay. That's pretty good. In 1993, he was honored with the Arts of the Year Award from the Arts Council of Western New York, and I mention this because the award was given to him by College of Fellows member Jane Alexander. There's much more. The one thing I will point out that I think is important is to know that he started at Lincoln University with Dr. Thomas Pauley, one of the great professors and teachers in the African American tradition, HBCU College. He went to Juilliard, and he also studied at the University of North Carolina, where he was there, and Missouri, right? Yeah, okay. So let's welcome Stephen McKinley Henderson. So you know his bios, you know how impossible it was to boil it down to just those few sentences, and I'm just really grateful and thankful to be here with you. And now I will be able to not talk at all, but I have a few questions, and then we will go from there. When and how did you first meet August Wilson, and what were your first thoughts of him? Anybody?
Okay, I'll do it. I didn't know that I was meeting August Wilson at the time, but we are the same age, August Wilson and I. We grew up in cities that are sometimes mistaken for one another. August in Pittsburgh, I grew up in Baltimore. And when August wrote the treatise, The Ground Upon Which I Stand, I realized that he and I, at the same time, must have read Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, which was the Bible of Black militancy in the mid-60s. I concluded then that he and I knew one another. I didn't meet him until I started attending the National Black Theater Festivals in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I have taken the time to read the Wilsonian canon, each of the 10 plays. I performed in 2 of them, which you mentioned. The first is King Henry II as stool pigeon, and 7 guitars as Henry. I learned so much about myself, and I will say lastly about this question, and I only wish that August were here so I could say, August, those men in your plays who are either on the journey to eternity or discouraged about never having the opportunity to be on the journey to the eternal, and to whom you refer as shining men. I am they. I am your shining men. That's it.
Thank you.
I met August Wilson when I was called to a meeting. To explore the possibility of playing on Esther. I had seen his work, wondered at his work, wondered if I'd ever be fortunate enough to perform his work. And here I was being called into a meeting. Immediately when I looked at him, I thought, a man from another time. He was restrained. He was quiet. He had his own style in dressing, and he listened very carefully to everything one said. He was always listening, not just with his ears, but with his heart. So he said to me, I didn't know that you had experience in theater. I thought that all of your work was in television. Now, I think this is what got me the job. She just leapt out. I said, well, you know, at this stage, people just think what they think. And they see, and they get what they see, but I'm not trying to prove nothing to nobody. That was an Aunt Esther answer.
Constanza?
Well, I remember that meeting. August came home talking about it, and he said, Phylicia's going to be on Esther. I met August Wilson when I was a third-year student at Yale Drama School. I was there to study set and costume design. We, of course, were introduced to each other as, this is your costume designer for the piano lesson. This was in 1987. And I was showing my sketches to August and Lloyd, and of course I was really nervous. And August always paid lots of attention to artists' work. He always had so much respect for anybody who gave their time and artistry and craftsmanship to the art. And he studied my sketches really closely. And I had drawn the character of Boy Willie with his pants rolled up because he is a farmer. And he looked at that and pointed, and he said he wouldn't have his pants rolled up. And I go, oh, well, I'll change it, that's not a problem. So the great actor Rock Dutton went on stage the first time he was on stage, which was at Boston's Huntington Theater. he had taken over the role of Boy Willie from Samuel L. Jackson. And he got on stage, and lo and behold, he had his pants rolled up. and he came up to me and he said, "Did you tell him to do that?" I said, "I didn't say a thing. You know, he's a farmer." So that's how he and I started to have a sort of like a very tongue-in-cheek and costume designer playwright relationship, which lasted until 2005 when he passed away.
True collaboration, that's true. Thank you. Steve?
It is such a joy to be here, I can tell you what.
Close to the mic.
It's a joy to be here. It's doing a little fun. Oh, it's all right. I was coming back from doing production, The Boys Next Door at the Totem Pole Playhouse that Jean Stapleton and her husband, Bill Putch, and I was coming back. It's just outside Gettysburg, and I went through Pittsburgh because I wanted to go and see the streets that were written up in Joe Turner, because I was about to do a production in Buffalo, play Bynum and Joe Turner, and I just, I could see the names of streets I had, seen the play before, and I said, this is interesting to just know these streets. And I looked in the paper, and it said August Wilson would be speaking at St. Benedict de Moors Church. And it said he would be speaking at 1 o'clock. And so I got my stuff together, checked out the hotel, said I will go by there, and then before I drive to Buffalo. And I went over to St. Benedict de Moors Church, and there were no cars there, there were no people there, you know what I mean? And I was quite surprised. So I went up to the door of the church, and a woman was coming out, and she said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Well, I read in the paper that August Wilson will be speaking here today at 1 o'clock. She said, "Yeah," she said, "I know you heard that." She said, "I think they got it wrong on purpose." She said, "He spoke at 11 o'clock. But she said, "I think they got it wrong on purpose." I said, "Well, I guess I just going back to Buffalo." She said, "Oh, you from Buffalo?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Do you know an actor named Kashmir Ellis?" I said, "Yeah, I know Kashmir. I know the brother." And she said, "Well, if you take a message to Kashmir for me, I'll introduce you to my brother." And it was Frida. It was August Wilson's sister. And so I was late, but I was right on time. So she took me over to Homewood, because he was speaking in the next at the library. And so she said, "Now when he gets through speaking, I'll introduce you to him." And so I went and heard his speech, and I'll never forget when he told everybody in this library, he said, "When we finish, you go up in the library and see how many books you can find about the native people, of this country." And he said, "And you can't hear their music on the radio, and you don't see any of their clothes in the store." He said, "Now you can hear your music all day long on the radio, and you can see styles that you put out there, so on and so forth. But he said, if you're not careful, you go the same way. Now you don't think it can be, you think it can't happen, it can happen." I was just, so anyhow, afterwards, people were walking up to him and everything. And his sister kept going up to him saying, his sister kept going up to him and saying, "August, I want you to meet this brother from Buffalo. I want you to meet this brother from Buffalo." And I was saying, "Oh, you're going to mess up now." I was worried now, but I was saying, she's really bothering him. And then she said, "Well, he knows Kashmir." And then he stopped and said, okay. So I said, "Well, I'm going to be glad when I see that brother when I get back to Buffalo." The thing that he said to me then, and I'll stop because it's a story, but what he said, when you see Kashmir, you let him know that although my sister divorced his brother, we did not divorce him.
Yeah.
So he's still family. and let him know he can come around. We don't want to see his brother. but we would, and I said, see now, that whole thing about family and that connection, you know, and so anyhow, that's when I first met him, and then later on I was to get a chance to audition for a show because of
It died.
I didn't do it. But I have to say, because of a director named Claude Purdy. I don't know if I had a witness, you know, because that's why I got an audition, and then from then on, you know, it was just.
You never left. It's beautiful, beautiful place. The simpler the question, the more interesting the answers. That's what I'm finding out in life. Andre did something. He jumped ahead in my script here, so I'm going to follow him. And it was, what would you want to tell him or ask him if he were here? Andre said that he is the shining man. That's what he would tell August. What would anyone else want to say to August? Or what would you want to share with him after having gone the journey, so much of the journey with August Wilson?
I would want to let him know that I was raised by folks other than my parents, and I knew my parents and loved them and loved these people. But the thing that I would like to let him know is because I didn't get any pictures from my family portrait. You know what I mean? The people who had pictures, and I was in some of the pictures, I would always feel awkward whenever they open up family albums and stuff, because I knew the people in the pictures, but I was never in one because I didn't grow up there. And the plays for me, decade by decade, to see, especially the costumes, to see, it's like a family album for me. You know what I'm saying? And I got to be in the picture. You know what I'm saying? I got to play some. So I'd like to let you know how much I appreciate that I got to be in 8 of those 10 plays and feel a part of the family.
I would say thank you.
Yes.
I would say thank you because meeting him and being cast as Aunt Esther really elevated my understanding and my trajectory as an artist, as a theater artist. I had never, although Jeffrey Holder said we should, I had never considered directing. No, I was just interested in acting, so I thought. And then one day, Constanza Romero called me and said, there's going to be a production of Gem of the Ocean at Seattle Rep, and I think you should direct it. And that was my foray into directing. And I've directed 4 plays of the cycle so far. And in each one, if you ask me which is my favorite, I could have told you some years ago, well, Gem of the Ocean. But now I see gems in all of them. And what he has afforded theater goers, what he has afforded aspiring artists, what he has afforded professors, students of literature, is quite remarkable.
I want to parallel your answer, Phylicia. I would say also thank you. I have been, up until 2005, 20 whole years ago, I have been in charge of the August Wilson estate, now the August Wilson Legacy LLC. And before he passed away, I knew that he was going to give me this immense charge. And I was saying, oh my God, what's going to happen if you know, if somebody wants to do this, and what should I say if somebody wants to do that? And what should I, you know, it's like, if you know, they won't, basically it was, what should I do when I see people disrespecting your work? And then he basically did a beautiful thing that I was talking about last night with a friend. He did this. He just put his two hands out and he passed it on to me. And I want to say 20 years on, I have weathered a lot of battles. I have, you know, crossed many seas and you know, did whitewater rafting with a lot of disrespectful occasions. But always, what he gave to me was the biggest gift I have ever received in my life. And I have tried my very best, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about August Wilson, and there's not a day that goes by that I'm not trying to do my best.
Sean, did you want to add anything?
I think that there should be an August Wilson Festival produced in the August Wilson Theater.
That's a challenge that we should take up. I think that's a wonderful one. I just got a signal that we're near the end of our time. And so I want to ask you, is there anything you want to say to each other or ask each other? Give you a moment to talk to each other. Let me give you back the phone, the thing, shiny man.
I'm going to ask, this gentleman and I have been colleagues for many years. And because he does it better than I want Stephen, no, I don't want to tell that story. But I want you to tell the story of how we met. You and I.
We're doing a production of Caucasian Chalk Circle at Buffalo Studio Arena with an absolutely incredible group of people. Incredible group of people. And I think now that Andre really wanted to do As that. I know this.
Yes, we did ask that.
And now, you know, he's coming in my playground. But what he did in that show was take me by the hand so that I could do a number, a song. I got to do a song with André De Shields, and it wasn't the brother young, you know, the cat, he was one of them too, that played Shaw, you know, the little guy.
I can't hear him.
But, and they were both, I mean, everybody, of course, was just ready. You know, we knew we had royalty. And, but he told the whole story. He talked about doing the stage manager. He did the stage manager square. Stage manager. You know what I'm saying? But that's all. You were from top to bottom, you know. And so, but that was it. And we shared a dressing room together.
Okay. Wait a minute.
I'm through with that.
No, I'm just saying, as great as we are, it is not easy to share a dressing room with another actor who's doing the role that you wanted to do.
That show would have been anything without you. You know it.
I want to ask Constanza. I want to ask, what was the inspiration for Aunt Esther's dress, which is now in the National Museum of African American.
That's so sweet. Thank you, Phylicia. I had a blank piece of paper in front of me, and I was thinking about how I'm going to dress, how I'm going to bring the character of a 287-year-old woman on stage. You know, it can't just be like a regular dress, not at all. So, you know, speaking to August, he had told me that the memories of the Middle Passage, the coming to this North America on a slave ship, those memories were passed down from one ancestor to the other. And it was a continuation. And I thought about, you know, starting to bring that original ancestor into that dress. And, you know, capture another little part of another ancestor and put it in that dress, another part. And then I was reminded of the tradition, which is very, it's a beautiful and gorgeous craft of African Americans with quilts. And I started to sort of make a quilt of memories on the bottom of Aunt Esther's dress, plus bringing in other pieces, other objects, talisman, you know, like slave badges, things from the memory from the Civil War, from, you know, it just all came rushing toward me in different pieces of fabric and with different objects, different buttons, different, you know, brooches and jewelry, until it appeared in front of me, and it was Aunt Esther's dress, and Aunt Esther who carried those memories that were on her dress, but that were also inside her. So that's how it came to me, and it was a pleasure to have Phylicia wear that dress, and anything I added to the dress, Phylicia noticed. She goes, oh, you know, I would see her on stage and she'd say, oh. And the rope? Okay. Well, there is also another part in Gem of the Ocean, which is Aunt Esther speaks about Jumba, which is her son. And, you know, the character of Citizen reminds her of her Jumba. And whenever Phylicia said, my Jumba, there was a little bit of pain. And I think it was written into the script as well. There's a little bit of pain in there. You know, and I said, gosh, you know, what is it about Jumba? What happened to Jumba? August didn't even know. But, you know, he kept coming up, and then I said, Jumba has to be represented in the dress, and what could have happened to Jumba? What was the most horrible thing that could have happened to Jumba? And I just thought, I went up to August and I asked his permission to put a burnt piece of rope on Esther's costume, on her dress, and he said, oh, I didn't even have to explain it to him. He said, that's what happened to Jumbo. Oh. And that burnt piece of rope went on the dress, and then August added that section in Gem of the Ocean, which is, you know, have you ever thought of...
You ever look at a piece of rope, Mr. Citizen, rope, right. You do lots of things.
Yes.
You could tie it around a bucket and get water out of a well. You could tie things together with a piece of rope. God made the rope. It's the devil. But man, what takes God's creation sometimes turns it over to the devil.
That's right.
Andre asked me to sing what he wanted me to sing.
I wouldn't sing a song saying it.
No. But I just have to say that I've seen some great performances in my life. I've been very fortunate. Phylicia Rashad's performance as Aunt Esther is one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed. And I told her the first time I saw it, and I tell her every time I see it because I have to witness for it, you know, because and that's just how they go. And now to understand how much, you know, those levels and layers and all of that, and that hand, man, I tell you, I can call it up anytime I want. And I'll say the same thing about this gentleman here. He had a moment that I remember the critics said, if you lost track of 5 minutes, if you were on Manhattan Island and you forgot something and you can't figure out what happened to those 5 minutes, you say, André De Shields owns those 5 minutes in the full Monty. And he did. Now I know it was. I saw it in black and white. He said, and it was so. You know, so yeah, it's a joy to be here and a part of this.
So please cast Stephen Andre in a play that Constanza will design and Phylicia will direct. A two-hander. It's all you need, Stephen and Andre.